Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. Friday, January the 5th, 2024, the first Friday of the 2024 calendar year. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of SEC Unfiltered Live. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We have got a jam-packed show for you. Lots to get into here on this Friday. Of course, as always, guys, I ask, please, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you get notifications when we go live, when we drop new video content as well. Also, guys, you can find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, guys, on social media, everywhere you consume content, you can find SEC Unfiltered there, content bleeding out of the eyeballs on a daily basis. I also want to kick off this show shouting out our friends over, you can barely see it, at Roback. Roback sent us one heck of a care package, guys. Of course, you see their ad every single day. Finally got the care package in and rocking the stuff today, and I absolutely love the Roback brand. Everything that I say in that ad read, if you will, is true. Even if it wasn't an ad read and they weren't one of our business partners, I would just tell you straight up, it's some of my favorite stuff I ever wear. And of course, guys, wearing it, rocking it today. As a golfer, too, by the way, any golfers out there, you're going to love this. So make sure you hit it up, roback.com, promo code SECU. Guys, like I mentioned, this is an exciting show today, guys, because it's at the eve of the beginning of conference play in the SEC as things really heat up and get going on the hardwood. We're going to do, so every single Friday, so during the SEC football season, right? We did a drive around the SEC during the midweek, if you will, where it was really just I talked about every single game, broke down every game. We're going to do that with basketball as well. Every single Friday, we'll do a weekend shoot-around, which is just going to be a breakdown, analysis, a preview, and prediction. I will lock in all of my picks for the action on the hardwood this weekend for the entire SEC. Also, guys, big news for MIZ as Theo Weiss Jr. announces last night he is back for the 2024 season. I'll talk about that and also compare he and Luther Burden III to the other best 1-2 duos in the SEC at the wide receiver position. Where do they rank? And, of course, we'll break down the big news from Mizzou, what it means for Eli Drinkwitz and the Tigers going in the 2024 season. Also, guys, J.J. McCarthy with some mind-blowing comments before Monday night's national championship. I'll touch on that and discuss and just give my thoughts on what is J.J. McCarthy thinking, saying what he said before the national title. And, of course, guys, end of show, we're taking your questions, your comments, your voicemails in our daily mailbag segment. I want to hear from you, 843-790-3377. And we kick off the show in style, guys. Our good friend Chris Doering of SEC Network, he took the time to chat. He was actually, guys, believe it or not, at the Rose Bowl, and he was in the end zone where the final play took place, where, of course, Jalen Milroe was stopped up the middle, and Michigan secured the victory in their spot in the national championship game. So we talk about all that. We talk much more. SEC Bowl season, the SEC season as a whole, one final time with Chris Doering, because, of course, the football season coming to an end. What a great season it was with Chris, an absolute legend, somebody I'm grateful to call a really good friend, and really appreciate all of his hard work and look forward to having him on yet again next football season. Again, guys, thank you all so much for the continued love and support all week long. I hope you're having a great start to your weekend. Hope you're having a great Friday. And with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get rocking with our good friend Chris Doering of SEC Network. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, the dust has mostly settled on the SEC football season as the games are behind us. Nobody better in the country to help us break it down than our good friend Chris Doering of SEC Network, as he did weekly, talking all SEC football. Chris, appreciate you taking the time, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Happy New Year to you and all your listeners. It's you mentioned the dust settling. Hard to believe it's over with, man. I think we wait forever for the start of the season, and then it flies by before we know it. The blink of an eye, it's over with, man. So it's tough to think about having to walk through the desert of the offseason starting on the first with Alabama's loss.
And Chris, you mentioned, let's start there with the Rose Bowl. You talked off air that you were at the game, you were in Pasadena. Just give folks an idea of what
Yeah.
that's like before we get into the game, the majesty of it, watching on TV. I mean, we talked about a lot leading into that game with that being Alabama, Michigan. It was such a helmet game with two historic programs. And really, it just felt like the perfect setting for
Yeah.
a game like that. And I followed along with you, your Instagram and all across social media. And I mean, it looked like a beautiful setting. And you hear from folks how great it is. But you were there in person. For someone who's never been to the Rose Bowl, can you describe what that experience is like?
Yeah, let's go back to kind of our childhood, when it was the Big Ten and the Pac-12, the tie-ins from those conferences. It used to seem like we'd watch that on January 1st, and it was something that we would always see from afar and never necessarily get to experience. And then with the bowl alliance, the BCS, the growth of the college football playoffs, we saw some teams outside of those two conferences get an opportunity to play. Florida was on the cusp of getting a chance to play a couple different times, didn't get into it, but I've been fortunate enough to have now two opportunities to go out and cover the Rose Bowl. And the second time was just as magical as the first time, maybe even more so in some ways. You mentioned the Alabama and Michigan matchup, the two winningest teams in college football history, playing one another with so much on the line in the most iconic stadium in all of college football. The weather was not great on Saturday or Sunday, but when Monday rolled around, it was as if the welcoming committee there, the Rose Bowl committee, knew exactly what to do to make it a memorable experience. The skies were blue, the temperatures were perfect. The grass is always perfect, and just the whole setting around it. It's driving in through the neighborhood. It reminds you a lot of going to Lambeau Field, this other, magical stadium in the college in the football world. And you're in the midst of a neighborhood, and all of a sudden you open up and you're at the Rose Bowl, much like you are there at Lambeau Field. So, man, it was an unbelievable experience for me. There's been two overtimes in the history of the college football playoffs in that 10-year run, both of them in the Rose Bowl. Both of them I was in attendance for. Both of them I had the opportunity to be standing in the end zone where all the plays were being made. And it just like I've played the sport at all levels, and the fan in me has never gone away. And I think anybody that's a fan of college football has to go experience it. And it makes me pinch myself sometimes that I get a chance to do this and call it work and actually get paid for it, because I'd go out there and do it for free just to have the chance to be a part of the experience over and over again.
Now, Chris, to the game we go. Let me ask you this first. What were your expectations for the game? Maybe predictions, what have you, but what you thought about the
Yeah.
game and the matchup going in versus what you saw. Were you surprised? Was it what you expected? Your top takeaways from that ball game, witnessing it in
Yeah.
person on Monday night.
You know this. I mean, working in the media world, we have opinions about how we think games are going to play out. We get paid to make predictions. The game did not play out at all like I expected. I thought Alabama, had hit the next level, that they were playing really well. I thought that Michigan hadn't really been tested this year, both with the Big Ten schedule and their out of conference schedule, which certainly left a lot to be desired. The statistics of their defensive dominance, I thought, were probably a little skewed because they hadn't played any really good offenses. I predicted Alabama would win the game by double digits, and it played out anything but that way. And I have a lot of respect, man. Getting to watch that team, the Michigan team, up close and personal. Watch how dominant they were up front. Dominant they were on both lines of scrimmage, but the speed and the power that they had on their defensive line with their front seven as a whole, the way they got after Jalen Milroe, the way they dominated Alabama's offensive line, man, I just was really surprised, and I take back all that I said, because I really undervalued what Michigan had done. And one of the things that stood out to me, Chris, we did media day coverage on Saturday, and Michigan, to a man, talked over and over again about how close they were as a team, about the chemistry that this team had, about how the adversity they had faced throughout the year off the field, the suspensions of their coach had brought them closer together. I thought all that was great and good sound bites, but I didn't think it was really going to matter on the field. And it actually was the difference in the ball game, because in the second half, Michigan could do nothing offensively, but they never gave up belief. The defense never, got pissed off at the offense for not doing their part. The defense kept Alabama within arm's length in one possession, and when Michigan needed it the most, they found a way to make the plays. And on 4th and 2, near the middle of the field, the Blake Corum out of the backfield catches that ball, and from then on, they dominated the rest of regulation and overtime. And I almost got the feeling, like, being there, that Alabama was playing tight. They were playing not to lose, as opposed to being the aggressor. Whereas I thought Michigan did a lot of the attacking in that game, particularly late in the ball game. Despite having no proof that they were going to be able to do it, they never lost hope. And at the end of the day, they made the plays down the stretch and found a way to advance to the college football championship game.
And Chris, that last point you make, I think that's one of the things that really shocked me, because as the second half began, I was watching the game with a buddy of mine, and I remember looking at him and saying, okay, this is when players tighten up, coaches tighten up, and Alabama, I mean, this is a position they're familiar with. Nick Saban, the best coach ever. They're going to do what they always do and find a way to win. And to your point, it was there were two things that surprised me. Number one, to see a team like Michigan late in that game, like you mentioned, that final drive, which was a legacy drive, but really take it to Alabama and be the aggressor. And the other thing, Chris, that I'm just still not used to, even after this season, is to see Alabama get whipped on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, twice. You saw it twice this year. Both their losses.
It's stunning.
And you're right. We're not used to seeing them getting beat on both lines of scrimmage like that. And we're not used to them having as many holes in their roster as what they do. I was very critical. I was critical here on your show of Alabama in the preseason. I predicted them to go 9-3. I thought the issues on the offensive line were going to be tough to overcome. I thought they were very average at receiver. I thought the questions about the quarterback were going to lead them to having a year that would find themselves not only outside of the college football playoff, but also outside of the SEC championship. And for them to evolve into what they did, despite having all of those issues that I think were real concerns at the time, spoke to the coaching job that I thought Nick Saban and his staff did. The surprising thing to me was how much they reverted back to that team that was so flawed early in the season, in week 2 and weeks 3, in the biggest game of the season. I go back and look too at game planning wise, like, why did we not see more Jalen Milroe run involved in the game early on? Why did you have him in the pocket where that's not his highest and best usage? Like, getting him in a position where he can put pressure on the defense with his legs is how, I thought that they started to evolve from the time they played LSU on. And to not have that in the game plan was either a huge oversight, or they significantly undervalued how good that defensive line was for Michigan. They finally got to it in the second half, had more success with some of their read option, zone read stuff. They did a good job of setting the edge in the second half. The running backs bounced and got outside quite a bit. But just curious as to why that didn't happen early in the ball game. And the last couple of years we've talked an awful lot about the penalties and the untimeliness of those penalties. Maybe one of the biggest penalties that people have not talked about enough. They're driving late in the ball game up 4. They get down around the 30-yard line. They've taken about 7 minutes off the clock. A touchdown puts the game away, and first down, they take a penalty. Now it's 1st and 15. They're behind the chains. They're able to get a few of the yards back. 3rd and 9. Again, they have him in the pocket, and as opposed to getting him outside, I just didn't understand it. I know that there's some limitations with Jalen Milroe. I've heard stories about him not being able to read the option plays as well as you'd like him to, that sometimes they're called gives or called keeps for him. I also know that he doesn't necessarily recognize when he needs to get the ball to his hot receiver. There were multiple times that they were bringing pressure that he should have just dumped it to his outlet guy. 3rd and 9 there was a shallow cross from the tight end that probably should have been one that he got out of his hands. But I just think putting him in that position there was not the best usage of his skill set. And they had a chance to end the game there. They had a chance to end the game on 4th and 2. All you got to do is get off the field. And again, they have communication issues covering the back out of the backfield, something that happened on the touchdown of Michigan's first score of the day. I thought the linebackers in coverage were overmatched. Deontay Lawson had a hard time covering multiple times. Communication issues there with the back being left uncovered. Just, surprising mistakes that we don't typically see. But at the end of the day, that's kind of who Alabama was early in the year, and it ended up going full circle and then reverting back to that team in the worst possible time.
Flawed and inconsistent, Chris. I think two really good words to describe, and very talented, by the way, but
Yeah.
a couple different ways to describe that Bama team. You mentioned Jalen Milroe again, 16 of 23, 116, no touchdowns, no picks, 21 carries, 63 yards. He had that fumble. I'll ask you this because Jalen.
By the way, on that fumble, Chris, I don't know if you could tell it on the television view. That was like today's version of the old school triple option, where you're running the read there. He keeps it off the edge, crashing, which was a great read. But they got the back out in the flat, which is the equivalent to the pitch man on that third option. All he's got to do is throw the ball out there. There was no contain outside. Both defenders had come down inside. If he gets the ball out there, that's at least a 40-yard gain, maybe a touchdown. Instead, he keeps it. He's holding the ball without really good ball security. Ball comes out. Like, I felt like there were a number of opportunities where they could have done more to shut the game down. That was one of them. They're driving early in the third quarter, down on the other side of the field. Two bad snaps that get by Jalen Milroe that cause them to be in like third 30, that they ultimately have to run the ball and punt it. Just too many self-inflicted wounds, as you mentioned. And ironically, I talked to Coach Saban on Saturday at Media Days, and he said he was really proud of the way that his team had overcome some of the adversity. Some of it self-inflicted, and it sounded like those were almost foreshadowing words, because a lot of what happened on Monday afternoon was at the cost of their own mistakes.
And Chris, you bring me to my next question, because Jalen Milroe obviously announced that he's coming back next year. And,
was there a question about that? I mean,
everybody's got an announcement now, right?
Yeah,
Everybody makes it.
Right.
So anyways, we know though, for sure he's coming back. Which, to your point, where was he going to go? Either way, that's another conversation. But Jalen Milroe is back. I say that because I ask you this question, Chris. Can Alabama win a national championship with Jalen Milroe at quarterback? You mentioned the shortcomings and the question marks. And I mean, do you think over the course of an offseason, he can progress enough to where he can be a national championship caliber quarterback at Alabama?
I hope so. I hope so, because I like him a lot. I like the accountability that he's taken all year long when things have gone bad. I like the supportive nature of him on the sideline in that week 3 against South Florida. I love his smile. I didn't love the comments after the Auburn game and give me the Heisman and all that stuff. I think we need to have a little more self-awareness there. But he's got to evolve. He's got to evolve into a guy, if those stories are true about his inability to really read out some of the zone read stuff and the other option stuff they run. He's got to be better at that. He's got to be better at understanding where to go with the ball when you have pressure, that you have an outlet. Like, it's great to be able to beat the rush the way that he can. And sometimes, you get some big plays out of that. But more times than not, if you just get the ball to your outlet guy, you're going to at least offset the pressure. Maybe there's a play that somebody else on the field can make, and it doesn't have to fall on your shoulders all the time. So I do hope that he's able to evolve, because I like him an awful lot. I love his story, and I love, what he's done to be the face of this Alabama program this year. But I think there are some real concerns that, you have to have about what his limitations may be with some of the inability to read some of that stuff out.
Now, Chris, you mentioned you talked to Nick Saban at Media Days at the Rose Bowl, and now the conversation, that game is over with, done with. The conversation turns to, and every year around this time, with Nick Saban being where he is in his career, is he coming back next year? Is he going to retire? Is he still coaching? We've had many folks go on record and say, I think one of the, I forget his name, but one of the Bama players said that Nick Saban is going to die on a football field. Like, he's going to coach until he can't anymore. Did you sense that same fire, that same urgency, that same intensity in Nick Saban, to where you have no question he'll be back? Do you sense maybe we're getting closer towards the end of his tenure in Tuscaloosa, if you will? What did you pick up on talking to Nick Saban specifically?
In that conversation, I didn't get into any of that at all. I didn't really get that sense. I got the sense that this is a guy that still loves what he gets the chance to do, that loves college football. I asked him about his appreciation for being in that position to coach in a game of that magnitude between the two winningest coaches in college, or the two winningest programs in college football history in that venue there at the Rose Bowl. Obviously, he appreciated that opportunity and what he gets a chance to do. But inevitably it's going to happen. I would be shocked if it happened now, but let's be honest, we're all going to be shocked when it does happen. So whatever year it ends up being, whatever offseason that announcement comes, it's going to be incredibly surprising and honestly very sad. Like I love Coach Saban for who he is, what he's done for college football, what he does for teaching, more importantly, teaching players about how to be accountable, how to be good teammates, how to be good members of society, how to grow up to be successful, how to be great fathers. Like I think there's so many things that he's done to impact people positively outside of wins and losses that, whenever that happens, it'll be sad to not have him in that position any longer and able to affect the next wave of young people.
Now, with that being said, Chris, the national championship game in Houston, for the first time in a decade, there's no SEC team. I know you're a big college football guy. You love college football as a whole. We're all looking forward to Michigan and Washington, but how weird is it for you? Because I know it feels weird for me. How weird is it for you and many others, right, in the SEC community going into this game? It's like, we all love college football, but it's just a weird feeling watching these two teams go at it and there not being any sort of SEC representation on Monday night.
Yeah, Chris, it is weird, and I kind of had a bit of a hangover yesterday. Tuesday after the Monday game. I think a lot of it had to do with the excitement and the experience being over with and moving back to regular life after being in that fantasy world for 3 or 4 days out there. I think part of it, I'm not an Alabama fan by any means. I'm a fan of the SEC, but I'm also a fan of what gives me the best opportunity to experience things personally. And having Alabama, having the SEC as a whole out of the playoff contention is not great for me. But more than anything, I'm just a fan of this league, like you, like everybody else. I got into an argument with some Georgia fans who couldn't find it possible to possibly cheer for Alabama against Michigan. Like, how do you not cheer for this conference? I know you don't like the fact that you guys lost in the SEC championship game. I know that it's been a bitter battle back and forth, but the success that success that Georgia's having, the success that Kirby Smart's having is because of Alabama, because of Nick Saban. Like, so there has to be some appreciation there, I would think. But at the end of the day, I want this conference to do well. Maybe this is the best thing for the totality of college football. Maybe it would have been better had this happened 5 years ago. Maybe the Pac-12 wouldn't be dissolving the way that it was if they'd had more success like they had this year. But it feels weird to be talking about a game that doesn't include one of our teams. And honestly, Chris, I think one of the worst things that could have happened for this conference, it's a down year. Let's be honest. It was a down year. It was a down pre-conference schedule. It was down head-to-head with the ACC. And with Alabama being eliminated, it's going to be a down year in totality without having a chance to win a national championship. I think the worst thing that happened to the SEC was Alabama beating Georgia in the SEC title game. Having an undefeated Georgia in the playoff, I think they would have been better equipped to be able to play against a Michigan team that was maybe a little bit of a stylistic challenge. I think the Georgia offensive line probably would have held up better. I think Carson Beck probably would have been better at distributing the football to a much more talented group of wide receivers. But at the end of the day, Alabama was the better team in Atlanta in that first Saturday in December, and they deserved to be the SEC champions and representative of the league in the playoff. But let's not sugarcoat it at all. It was a down year for the conference as a whole.
So, Chris, on that note, brief thoughts on that Michigan-Washington matchup. Of course, Texas falls to Washington, who will be in the SEC in just a couple short months. It's stylistically, like you mentioned, two very different teams. I mean, you think of Michigan, you think of defense, you think of run game. J.J. McCarthy, more of kind of a distributor of the football. Washington side, it's Michael Penix Jr., it's high flying, it's offense. Your thoughts on the ball game? Because, again, I know you'll be watching, although there's no SEC team in there.
Yeah.
You saw this Michigan team, like you mentioned, firsthand. They got some real dudes up front in the trenches. Who do you think comes out on top?
Yeah, I do have a real appreciation for Michigan after being out there and getting a chance to talk to the players in the post game and seeing what they went through the last 2 years and losing in that very same position and not being able to get over the hurdle and finally getting back there and getting the chance to get the win and to move on. So I do appreciate that from the college football fan perspective. I have a lot of respect. Jim Harbaugh was my quarterback. My first NFL reception came from Jim Harbaugh, so I do have an appreciation for him as well. Um, I think the physicality that I saw from Michigan is going to be very difficult for Washington to match. But I thought the physicality that Texas had after watching them dominate Alabama was going to be tough for Washington to match, and certainly they were able to do that. The score much closer than probably the game was down the stretch. But man, just excited about the battle here between these two teams, the differences in style, how Michigan defensively decides to attack Michael Penix, who's been in an absolute zone all year long, the number of weapons to distribute the football to, the pick your poison nature. Like, honestly, Chris, it reminds me a lot of my teams at Florida when we were just so precise with the passing game and so dangerous with so many different weapons that could beat you. So I'm just really excited about the X's and O's chess match that lies before us. Um, Washington's been overlooked all year long. They're a 4.5 point underdog as it is now. It's a comfortable position for them, and it's a motivating position for them. So I think you'd probably be stupid to pick against them, but I also feel like there's some sort of team of destiny kind of storyline about this Michigan team as well, and I could see Michigan winning it all and Jim Harbaugh, setting sail for the NFL again. So I probably would lean Michigan, but I do think it's going to be an outstanding ball game with a ton of drama mixed in with the individual matchups.
Now, Chris, when you look at bowl season as a whole for the SEC, and you mentioned it was a down year, and I think bowl season was sort of a mixed bag there as well. But certainly there were some big winners. Missouri over Ohio State in that Cotton Bowl, Ole Miss over Penn State in the Peach Bowl, Georgia and what they did to FSU in that Orange Bowl. My goodness.
Yeah.
LSU and Tennessee both get victories on New Year's Day. What was your top takeaway, or was there anything in particular that jumped out to you from the SEC bowl season outside of the college football playoff?
I thought the two biggest wins, the two most important wins were the Missouri and the Ole Miss wins. And I thought the Missouri and Ole Miss were in very similar positions, obviously, both in the top 12. Both would be in the playoff had this been 2024. Both of them playing against really established, traditionally good college football programs, both from the Big Ten. And I thought this was a great one cap. I mean, Ole Miss had never won 11 games in a season before this year. They were able to do that. Maybe the two most impressive losses, if there is such a thing, losing to only Georgia and Alabama throughout the regular season. But I think these were both great kind of auditions for playing in the big stage against some big name programs and what you're going to have to do next year if you do find your ways into the top 12 when the season's all over with. So I thought those two teams were the ones that stood out the most. And then I thought, those were games that were caps for great seasons for each of those. But I thought, the bowl game can also be a springboard for the next season. And I thought the LSU and Tennessee wins for springboards for next year. Most importantly, because those next generation of quarterbacks got an opportunity. Presumably, Garrett Nussmeier and Nico Iamaleava are going to be the starters next season. Those two guys had great debuts as starters with their teams in their bowl games, and I think create a lot of optimism about the direction of those two programs as they head into 2024.
And I think, Chris, what's really exciting too is when you start looking ahead to 2024 and the way that we talk about and break down these teams. And with a 12-team playoff, I look at certain teams like a Tennessee, like a Missouri, like an Ole Miss, maybe even like an LSU, where to your point, where before it was only, okay, we're talking about the SEC champion, maybe the runner-up, is they can make noise. Now it's like those teams that are kind of on that 8-9 win sort of fringe. Can they get to 10? It just it unfolds and unravels even more storylines.
Yeah.
And with Texas and Oklahoma. So
yeah, so
more
much
teams.
to look forward to, right? I mean, it's exciting what's on the horizon. It's going to feel like 5 years until we get back to August when we start the season next year. But Yeah, how crazy to think about these teams in the SEC, like Ole Miss, who's never made an appearance in Atlanta for the SEC championship game, is going to have a better chance to win a national championship than they would an SEC championship, particularly with the elimination of divisions, which is going to be a unique dynamic in and of itself.
So, Chris, last thing, and we'll get you out of here. When you look back on the 2023 SEC season, you mentioned you felt like it was a down year for the SEC. When you look back on the season it was, what will you remember most? Whether it's one thing, a particular team, it's an overwhelming thing for the conference. When you look back at 2023 for the SEC, what do you take away from it?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is probably Missouri and what they've been able to accomplish. I think there were a lot of people that laughed about Eli Drinkwitz and appreciated him for being this kind of goofy guy with the this smile and little shots that he takes. But that was a legitimately really good football team this year, and he did it on the back of a couple players that Luther Burden from within the state of Missouri, Brady Cook from within the state of Missouri, lifelong Missouri fan. Did it with those guys, got them to believe. Now there's proof of concept. There's proof to be able to go out and sell what's possible. There's proof to be able to tell everybody that you can come to Missouri, play in the SEC, and play it as a college football playoff team. That to me is not only something that gives hope to that fan base and that program in general, but if Missouri can do it, why can't anybody else do it? Certainly, why can't Tennessee or Florida be able to do it? Like, Missouri was picked sixth, I think, in the East this year, and for them to have that kind of year just shows what is possible if you can put the right pieces together. And I think Drink's done a nice job of assembling that thing in a pretty short manner of time too.
Chris Doering of SEC Network, one of the best in the business. Chris, let me say yet again, I've thoroughly enjoyed all of our conversations, my friend. It's crazy to think the season flew by, but it was a ton of fun, my man. Happy New Year to you yet again, and look forward to doing it with you again here soon.
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate it, man. It's been great doing this throughout the season with you. I think you do a great job. Congratulations on your expansion to covering the entire league a little bit more too, and definitely look forward to catching up with you in the future.
There it is, the legend himself, Chris Doering, his final appearance on the show, at least for the foreseeable future. Probably next football season, we'll get Chris back on a weekly basis. But with the football season, of course, coming to an end, we will not have Chris on the show for quite some time. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. Before we do, though, Perfect Game USA has officially dropped their preseason top 25 for college baseball. 8 SEC teams are ranked in that top 25. Arkansas at number 2, LSU at number 3, Florida number 4, Vandy number 6, Texas A&M number 7, Tennessee number 11, South Carolina number 13, and Auburn at number 15. Baseball season just around the corner. Guys, that being said, we got a lot to get into. We're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, basketball season and conference play begins tomorrow on the hardwood for SEC men's basketball. Guys, I'll dive into that, give my full preview, my picks for all of the games. There are some big matchups in the opening weekend of conference play, guys. We'll dive into all that and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to SEC Unfiltered Live.
Yo, you think Dallas' Power 4 gonna drop 30 tomorrow?
Boy, you tripping.
Did you see his mom made a post about going to the game?
What? Hold up. His mama gonna be there?
He's been averaging like 34 points a game when she's there.
At least 40 when she be on that Jumbotron.
He don't like to let his mama down.
Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Cash in on your sports fandom with Prize Picks.
SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is the simplest fantasy game on the market, focused around prop total entries. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. Prize Picks has no sharks, optimizers, or mass multi-entry. It's literally just you against the projection. They also allow mixed sport entries. So, for example, you can take the over on LeBron, parlay with the under on Mahomes. They've got college sports, pro sports, literally anything and everything you can think of. They have got it over at Prize Picks. They also have a slick, easy-to-use mobile app, both on the App Store and Google Play, and they're rated 4.8 stars in the App Store with rave reviews. So many fans and listeners of SEC Unfiltered have made tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks, and you should as well. So again, go download the Prize Picks app or head over to prizepicks.com, and when you do, use that promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. When your money's on the line, choose a trusted sports book that gives you tools to win, like MyBookie. At MyBookie, it doesn't matter if your team is up or down. You can easily cash out or bet the game live to come out on the winning side. Use MyBookie for daily odds boosts, same-game parlays, and take advantage of huge prize pool contests. Every single sack, fumble, and touchdown is another chance to hit payday. To get started, go to mybookie.ag, and on your first deposit, use promo code SECU to grab a deposit match up to $1,000. Try the MyBookie money bag as well to grab a potential Super Bowl frontrunner at long shot odds, plus 38,000 on the Eagles and Chiefs. You won't find odds like that anywhere else. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Finally, SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Roback. Guys, if you haven't heard of Roback before, it's time to check them out. It's safe to say I'd bet on these guys any day of the week because I absolutely love their gear. I couldn't be more pumped to work with Roback. It's simply some of the most comfortable gear that I own. From the performance polos to the hoodies and the joggers, it's some of the best fit and best feel around. Roback's performance hoodies are some of the best pieces of clothing I've ever worn. I can't emphasize how soft these things are with great stretch and breathability. They're simply some of the best hoodies out there. Odds are, guys, if you see me during football season, baseball season, basketball season, or just here on SEC Unfiltered Live, you'll more than likely see me in a Roback hoodie. Secondly, guys, Roback's performance polos, they're some of the most comfortable polos out there. They're moisture wicking with 4-way stretch, making them perfect for a game day, and they have the perfect fit. With crisp collars that don't lose their shape, I could not recommend these polos more. In all honesty, guys, Roback's been gaining traction big time. I'm sure you've seen them. They've been working with some of college football's biggest stars, such as Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe and former LSU head coach Ed Orgeron. So go check them out now and use the promo code SECU on Roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with the promo code SECU. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Friday, January the 5th, 2024. Love when we fumble coming out of the break there. I'm trying to pull up multiple things on my phone, get things posted out. It's right now, at least, a one-man show behind the scenes, getting it all going, getting it all rocking. And again, excited to expand and grow the business and grow the content and grow the entity as a whole, if you will. Again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in here on this Friday. Hope you're having a great start to your weekend. TGIF. It's a weird week, by the way, with the shortened week because of New Year's Day being on Monday. It's felt like for me, like every day has been, I was like surprised today was Friday. I thought today was Thursday. It felt like Tuesday was Monday. Wednesday was Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera. But here we are on this Friday, getting going in the weekend. And we sit on the eve of the beginning of conference play in the Southeastern Conference. Guys, like I mentioned to you all, we're not just talking football on this show. We're a well-rounded show talking baseball, talking basketball, as well as, of course, football. So really exciting stuff, guys. Again, we go through the entire slate this weekend. And, guys, every single Friday, which you can expect from us, we're going to have our weekend shoot-around where we go through every single game on the SEC schedule. Of course, throughout the week as well, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, we'll preview, break down the biggest games, the best action from the SEC on the hardwood. But every single Friday, we're going to go through the games, and we're going to have game picks, which we're going to lock in here on the show, and we're going to have a graphic for that, locking in the picks on social media. So, again, really excited for all of the action tomorrow. And, guys, as we look ahead to tomorrow, the start of conference play, what's really exciting about it is this. We've been watching these teams for a little bit over a month now navigate through non-conference play. Not all schedules are created equally, right? So you've got some teams, I think, like a Tennessee, right, who's played a couple top 5 teams. They've been really competitive. They've won all their other games basically in blowout fashion. You know, there are teams that we feel like we know more about. Kentucky, for example. But then you have some others, like an Ole Miss who's 13-0, like a South Carolina who's 12-1, right? There's so many storylines going into conference play of who's a legit contender, who is a pretender, who can pick themselves up off the mat, right? You've got Alabama, Arkansas, Texas A&M who are trying to kind of get things going. You know, I think Vandy, Georgia, LSU sort of fighting to get out of the cellar there. And this is really where the men start to separate themselves from the boys, because it's one thing to play the number 300 ranked net schedule or whatever and go undefeated or have 1 or 2 losses. Then you get into conference play, though. And the SEC is deeper and better than it has ever been when it comes to men's hoops. So really excited, guys. And I think we got a great slate of games to open up conference play. That being said, let's go ahead and dive into these games, guys. And we start with the noon tip-off. This game airing nationally on CBS as the South Carolina Gamecocks host the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And, guys, like I mentioned, Lamont Paris and South Carolina, one of those teams that was really good in non-conference play. And I think they're continuing to try to prove to people that, hey, we deserve to be there. We belong. We should be a top 25 team. I know a lot of South Carolina fans have their gripes. Why are the Gamecocks not ranked? Why are they not in the top 25? You know how you take care of that conversation? You go win a ball game like this. You go win your first conference game, because if you look at South Carolina's schedule, guys, these first couple games, they have got a gauntlet outside of a game with Vandy mixed in there, but they've got a gauntlet open up. So we're going to know really, really quickly for South Carolina whether they are legit, they're a contender, or maybe they're a little bit of a pretender and they skated through the non-conference schedule. On the other side, Mississippi State, a team that's been sort of up and down. The big boost for them, though, they did get Tolu Smith back from injury. You know what you're going to get with Mississippi State, a really physical brand of basketball. I think that's going to be the challenge for South Carolina in this game. The physicality of Mississippi State, the depth of Mississippi State. But I tell you this, guys, as we run through these games, and of course we're locking in picks for each and every single one of them, South Carolina on their home floor, nationally televised game. I would expect Colonial Life Arena to be as packed out as it's been in quite some time. I think it will be a raucous environment, guys. There's a reason we talk about all the time, and we'll talk about all season, protecting your home floor in college basketball, because it's so hard to go on the road and win. I like South Carolina in this game to pull what I expect will be the upset. The lines are not out yet. Of course, those come out the morning of or the day of, what have you. I think South Carolina will pull the upset, as I think Mississippi State will be the favorite in this ball game. I like the Gamecocks, the momentum they've built with Lamont Paris. I think on the home floor, I think you're going to see Michie Johnson, B.J. Mack, Talon Cooper. I think Miles Studi could have a big game, former Vanderbilt guard in his first SEC game in Garnet and Black. I just think South Carolina right now, guys, with the momentum, I think Carolina is playing with a chip on their shoulder. I think they want to prove to everyone that the 12-1 start is legitimate and they are a legitimate team. I think they take down Mississippi State. I think this is sneaky. It's the first game of the day, and there are some higher profile matchups from a standpoint of ranked on ranked or blue bloods or just notable games. I think this is a great way to get the day started. South Carolina, Mississippi State. This could end up being, guys, the best game of the day. And I think South Carolina on their home floor, they've got the chip on their shoulder. I think State maybe still a little banged up with Tolu Smith. I think the Gamecocks find a way to keep the momentum going and get the job done in this one. We move to Gainesville, Florida, taking on the 6th-ranked Kentucky Wildcats. This game at 12:30 on ESPN. Again, for the Gators, been sort of up and down in non-conference play, right? They've struggled here and there. I know they had a tough one against an East Carolina team that's not all that good. Kentucky's been really good, guys. I think they are well on their way to breaking that streak of missed Final Fours or haven't been to a Final Four in quite some time. I like Kentucky in this ballgame. I think Florida, do not sleep on this atmosphere. This atmosphere is going to be electric. This atmosphere is going to be a lot of fun to see. They're going to be going crazy, going to be rocking. I think this Kentucky team, though, guys, is built for it. I think this Kentucky team is built for the challenge, going on the road, making a statement to open up conference play. I think the Wildcats get the job done. They take down the Florida Gators. We move to Como, Missouri, taking on the Georgia Bulldogs at a 1 o'clock tip Eastern time. Of course, SEC Network is where you can watch this one, guys. Georgia stinks. They're just not very good. Bottom line, Georgia, if it's anything other, if it's a round ball, Georgia does not care, right? That's it. If it's a round ball, Georgia does not care. I love Mizzou in this game. I think the boys in Como will get it done. They'll protect the home floor. I like what Missouri's got this year. Again, they're one of those middle-of-the-pack teams right now, but I think they've got more than Georgia, although Georgia has been upstart of late. Do not sleep on the Dogs. They've been a little better. I was a little harsh on you, Georgia. I apologize. But either way, I like Mizzou to get the win in this one, start 1-0 in conference play. We move to Bud Walton Arena. The Arkansas Razorbacks taking on the 25th-ranked Auburn Tigers. This is a 2 o'clock tip on ESPN2. Auburn right now, by the way, guys, ranked 25th in the country. 2 o'clock tip, ESPN2. Guys, Bud Walton Arena is one of the best environments in all of college basketball. Bud Walton Arena is where teams' dreams go to die. And Arkansas is a team that is desperate, right? They were not good in non-conference play. They were a team that people are scratching their heads like, what's going on with the Arkansas Razorback? Meanwhile, what Auburn has done of late really have caught fire. I think they're a team that's going to be dangerous in SEC play with Bruce Pearl as their head coach. One of the best in the business, of course, Eric Musselman on the Arkansas side, what he's done there in Fayetteville. In Bud Walton Arena, I think Arkansas, everybody's doubting them. All the naysayers are just kind of writing off the Hogs. They're no good. They stink this year. It's going to be a down year in Fayetteville. I think at home, I think at minimum, even if Arkansas doesn't completely turn it around, I think we're going to have moments this season where we get sort of a burst of life, a burst of energy, if you will, from the Hogs. I think this one to start conference play, I think we get that. I still think Arkansas is just way too talented for the way they've played, and they're a really tough team to figure out. I think they get this win at Bud Walton Arena. I think they ride the momentum of the home crowd. They take down the 25th-ranked Auburn Tigers on the home floor. Guys, we go to Nashville. Vanderbilt taking on Alabama, 3:30 tip on the SEC Network. Guys, Bama, another team, really difficult to figure out. I know they lost a lot. Don't get me wrong. They lost a lot last year. They've actually got the top leading scorer right now in the SEC in Mark Sears, 19.3 points per game. He's been really good. But it's been up and down for them as well. And you think about how much they lost from last year's team. I guess it would make sense, right? They've taken somewhat of a step back. But Mark Sears leads them this season. Vanderbilt, guys, is terrible. They're awful. I don't know how much longer Jerry Stackhouse has in Nashville, but it can't be all that much longer. So I think Bama will go on the road. Vandy's a weird place to play, by the way. It's a strange place, right? That gymnasium is just with the elevated floor. And whoever designed Vanderbilt's gymnasium, by the way, was on some sort of drugs or something, because it just doesn't make sense, right? But to be fair to the Commodores, it plays into their hands and plays in their favor. That's why you see some of the weird upsets you do in that venue. But I think Alabama, I think they're too good. I think this Vandy team, I think it's going to be a real struggle, guys. I think they are going to finish last in the SEC. I could see them winning maybe 1 or 2 conference games, but it's going to be a long, long season in Nashville. I think Bama wins. I think Bama wins big. Guys, we go to Knoxville. Maybe the game of the day, the only ranked on ranked matchup. The 5th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers host the 22nd ranked Ole Miss Rebels. 6 o'clock tip on the SEC network. And the big storyline in this one, guys, Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels. Year 1 of the Chris Beard era, by the way. What he's done to this point with that ball club is incredible, right? Matthew Murrell, Alan Flanagan, Jalen Murray, what those guys are doing. I mean, it's really, really impressive to see Ole Miss, a fun brand of basketball. You know, they've had some close wins. They've had some close calls. But the fact of the matter is this, guys, they're 13-0, right? And nobody in their right mind picked the Ole Miss Rebels to be undefeated as conference play begins. Now, Tennessee, no slouch either, of course, a top 5 team. And again, their only losses, guys, have come to other top 5 or top 10 ranked teams, what have you. You know, Tennessee, guys, is just a really well-rounded team. You know what brand of basketball they're going to play. It's going to be really, really physical. They're going to make you uncomfortable to a point of, you know, making the refs make a decision like what type of game are you going to call tonight, because they're going to be physical, right? They're going to test Ole Miss. They're going to push Ole Miss to their limits. If this game was in Oxford, I'd give Ole Miss a lot more of a chance, but going to Thompson Bowling Arena, going to Knoxville, I think Rocky Top will be rocking. I think Ole Miss has been a really nice story. I still think they're a quality basketball team. They're much better than, you know, any of us gave them credit for the preseason. And I think Chris Beard will have this team ready to pull an upset or two like this in the SEC season. But I think Tennessee is just going to be too much, man. I think Tennessee is too good. I don't see Tennessee stumbling out of the gate in SEC play. And again, guys, the only games the Vols have lost this year have been to other top 5 or top 10 competition. I think Tennessee is legit. I think they may be the best team in the SEC, right up there, of course, with Kentucky. And I think Tennessee will get the win. I think Ole Miss, again, a nice story. They've been really, really good in non-conference play. But, guys, like I mentioned, this is when the men start to separate themselves from the boys. And as great a story as I think Ole Miss has been, I think Tennessee is going to humble Ole Miss a little bit. I think Tennessee will be too much in this ball game. And finally, guys, we go to College Station. Texas A&M taking on the LSU Tigers, an 8:30 tip. This game on the SEC network as well. So, guys, it's a big day on SEC network, by the way. We got a 1 o'clock, 3:30, 6, and 8:30, all back to back to back to back. Also games on ESPN, ESPN2, and CBS. So all across these different networks, tons of games, tons of great basketball. But again, A&M and the Bayou Bengals will do battle. Wade Taylor has been fantastic for Texas A&M, guys. You heard our good friend Blake LaBelle a couple weeks ago say he thinks he's the best player in the conference, 17.6 points per game. LSU is a team with Jordan Wright leading the way, 14.6 points per game, where, again, I think LSU is a bottom third of the league team right now. Had some positives in non-con play, but I think Buzz Williams' team and Texas A&M, kind of a sluggish start. I expect them sort of like Arkansas to get things rolling, to get things going. Buzz Williams is just too good of a coach. Texas A&M is too good of a basketball team. They've got too much talent, guys. We saw what they did last year with that crazy, crazy run in SEC play. What was it? I think they won like 15 in a row or something like that. So I don't know that A&M is going to do that again, but I do think on the home floor, I don't think LSU will have an answer. I think it will be a really, really big night for Wade Taylor for Texas A&M. And I do think the Aggies will get the win to open up conference play. Guys, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into a quick break. On the other side, Theo Weiss Jr. is back from Missouri. What does it mean for the Tigers? And does Missouri feature the best wide receiver duo going into the 2024 SEC football season? We'll talk about all that, guys, and much more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to SEC Unfiltered Live.
Yo, you think Dallas' Power 4 gonna drop 30 tomorrow?
Why you tripping?
Did you see his mom made a post about going to the game?
What? Hold up. His mama gonna be there?
He's been averaging like 34 points a game when she's there.
At least 40 when she be on that Jumbotron.
He don't like to let his mama down.
Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Cash in on your sports fandom with Prize Picks.
SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is the simplest fantasy game on the market, focused around prop total entries. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. Prize Picks has no sharks, optimizers, or mass multi-entry. It's literally just you against the projection. They also allow mixed sport entries. So, for example, you can take the over on LeBron, parlay with the under on Mahomes. They've got college sports, pro sports, literally anything and everything you can think of. They have got it over at Prize Picks. They also have a slick, easy-to-use mobile app, both on the App Store and Google Play, and they're rated 4.8 stars in the App Store with rave reviews. So many fans and listeners of SEC Unfiltered have made tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks, and you should as well. So again, go download the Prize Picks app or head over to prizepicks.com, and when you do, use that promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. When your money's on the line, choose a trusted sports book that gives you tools to win, like MyBookie. At MyBookie, it doesn't matter if your team is up or down. You can easily cash out or bet the game live to come out on the winning side. Use MyBookie for daily odds boosts, same-game parlays, and take advantage of huge prize pool contests. Every single sack, fumble, and touchdown is another chance to hit payday. To get started, go to mybookie.ag, and on your first deposit, use promo code SECU to grab a deposit match up to $1,000. Try the MyBookie money bag as well to grab a potential Super Bowl frontrunner at long shot odds, plus 38,000 on the Eagles and Chiefs. You won't find odds like that anywhere else. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Finally, SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Roback. Guys, if you haven't heard of Roback before, it's time to check them out. It's safe to say I'd bet on these guys any day of the week because I absolutely love their gear. I couldn't be more pumped to work with Roback. It's simply some of the most comfortable gear that I own. From the performance polos to the hoodies and the joggers, it's some of the best fit and best feel around. Roback's performance hoodies are some of the best pieces of clothing I've ever worn. I can't emphasize how soft these things are with great stretch and breathability. They're simply some of the best hoodies out there. Odds are, guys, if you see me during football season, baseball season, basketball season, or just here on SEC Unfiltered Live, you'll more than likely see me in a Roback hoodie. Secondly, guys, Roback's performance polos, they're some of the most comfortable polos out there. They're moisture wicking with 4-way stretch, making them perfect for a game day, and they have the perfect fit. With crisp collars that don't lose their shape, I could not recommend these polos more. In all honesty, guys, Roback's been gaining traction big time. I'm sure you've seen them. They've been working with some of college football's biggest stars, such as Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe and former LSU head coach Ed Orgeron. So go check them out now and use the promo code SECU on Roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with the promo code SECU. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Friday, January the 5th, 2024. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Reagan Green chimes in on Facebook, says food for thought. Not SEC related, but the Huskies win the national title, closing out the Pac-12 with its first natty since 2004. Huskies headed to the Big Ten. Now Michigan has a new conference rival. Yeah, Reagan, what's crazy, too, is Michigan and Washington play in 2024 in a regular season game, to your point, since Washington is joining the Big Ten. So pretty crazy stuff indeed with the conference realignment, all that good stuff. Again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Again, you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content as well. And again, really appreciate you guys for your love and support. Guys, some big news in the SEC late last night as Theo Weiss Jr. announced his return for the Missouri Tigers in 2024, guys. And this is a big, big boost for a team that just won the Cotton Bowl over the Ohio State Buckeyes. And guys, you look at this offense, of course, Brady Cook is already announced he's coming back for Mizzou next season. The only guy they're losing, the only piece now is Cody Schrader, the fantastic running back. Of course, guys are going to have to replace him. That's not going to be easy. But you knew Luther Burden III was coming back, which I would probably argue going into 2024 is the best returning wide receiver in the SEC. You look at the numbers, and I think they would reaffirm that because Malik Neighbors at number 1, Xavier Legette at number 2, at least statistically. Those two guys are gone. So you look at Luther Burden last year, 1,212 yards, 9 receiving touchdowns. He is the returning leader in the conference. But on the other side, that is where Eli Drinkwitz and company got this big news. As again, Theo Weiss Jr., the second option for Brady Cook in the passing game, announced his return. Huge boost, guys. 49 catches for 682 yards and 6 touchdowns in the 2023 season, guys. I mean, this is just a massive, some of the biggest wins of the offseason for these coaches, for these programs, are keeping your talent on the roster, saying, hey, you know what? You can go to the NFL draft, or goodness, you can hit the portal, maybe get a better offer, or you can stay here and help build something special, right? Of course, Theo Weiss Jr. started his career, played 3 seasons at Oklahoma, was a really good player there, former 5-star prospect, 5-star signee for the Sooners, and of course came over to Mizzou for the 2023 season. But guys, it raises this question. With that duo of Luther Burden III and Theo Weiss Jr., is that the best wide receiver duo in the SEC going into 2024? And if not, who is? Because, like, I don't know who you could say is better. Again, I read off their numbers, guys. I mean, Luther Burden III is arguably coming back the most dynamic wide receiver coming into next season. Like, there's nobody better than this guy, really, truly, at least right now that we know of. And then Theo Weiss Jr., he's got the physicality, guys. He's got the speed. Love what he can do. High point in the football, guys. We saw it time and time again this year. It is a great 1-2 punch on the outside, the passing game for the Missouri Tigers. Heck, you saw it on display in that Cotton Bowl towards the end of the game against Ohio State. But you look at other really good dynamic duos in the SEC, guys. I think others that are comparable. If you want to talk about Brew McCoy and Squirrel White, right? That was big news a couple days ago when Brew McCoy announced that he will return. But McCoy's going to have a lot of questions to answer, right? About can he come back from the injury? And Squirrel White's been really good. I don't know that he's been up to the level of either one of these guys on Missouri's roster, but McCoy and White have both been really good. Maybe at season's end, we're talking about them rivaling this duo, but I'm not sure right now you can argue they're better. You go to Ole Miss. I think that's the one that most likely you can look at and say, okay, this is where you have the best argument. You got Trey Harris, you got Jordan Watkins, or you can throw Juice Wells in there, and they've got other guys too. The wide receiver depth at Ole Miss is crazy, right? The wide receiver depth is insane. So if you want to have that conversation, if Juice Wells is healthy, if Juice Wells is back to 100% and being himself, I think that duo of Juice Wells and Trey Harris, I think you can realistically say is the best duo. But We don't know if Juice Wells is going to play because you know what? He might be 90%, 95%. Heck, he might be 100% and sit out. So who knows? Anyways, though, you go to Kentucky, guys. Dane Key and Barion Brown. These guys didn't necessarily live up to the hype this year or this past season, but going into 2024, I think you look at them certainly with Brock Vandegrift throwing them the rock. Could this be a dynamic duo that we look at and it rivals this group? And then also, guys, you go to Georgia. They've got a plethora of wide receivers that, you know, I think Carson Beck did a really good job of spreading the football out. Brock Bowers obviously took a lot of the attention and, received a lot of the accolades, made a lot of the big plays, if you will. There's so much talent in that Georgia wide receiver room. So much talent, loaded with talent. But there's nobody I think is proven as these two guys with Luther Burden and Theo Weiss Jr. So I think you can realistically argue, guys, and what I'm saying right now is I think with the return of Theo Weiss, I think it's safe to say that Missouri features the best 1-2 punch at the wide receiver position going into the 2024 season. I think there's no better duo than Luther Burden III and Theo Weiss Jr. When you look at just the dynamic playmaking ability, the problems they give to an opposing defense, it's going to be a lot of fun in Como for Brady Cook. And then you look at Missouri, guys, and what it means for them. And listen, I'm not trying to, get the hype train out of control, if you will. But after a season in which you win 11 games and you got a lot of your top pieces coming back next year, and that's going to be the big question for Mizzou, though, right, is consistency. Can they do it year after year after year? They've got to prove it. I think there's still going to be a lot of people that are doubting the Missouri Tigers, that are saying, you know what, it was a one-year, one-off. It was a fluke. Mizzou's going to revert back to winning 6 games a year or 5 games a year or whatever it might be. This helps, though. This helps big time, having those 2 big weapons on the outside. I think Missouri will be able to find help at the running back position as good as Cody Schrader was. And again, take nothing away. I'm not telling you they're going to have Cody Schrader 2.0, but in regards to the passing game, and they've got a great tight end as well, but in regards to your receivers, this is a huge boost for a Missouri team that is trying to parlay this momentum from this season, winning the Cotton Bowl, beating Ohio State, into something more. Now with the 12-team college football playoff, maybe you see Missouri competing for that 12-team college football playoff, and they're going to have the weapons on the outside. I mean, Brady Cook, it is an embarrassment of riches when you've got 2 guys. I think Luther Burden, guys, at one point, it was like 7 games in a row he scored a touchdown or he caught a touchdown pass. I mean, it was insane numbers, right? Insane numbers. 9 touchdowns is what he finished with. Again, Luther Burden III, 1,212 yards, 9 receiving touchdowns. And then you look at what Theo Weiss Jr. did, guys. He was 15th in the SEC, 682 yards, 6 touchdowns. But again, 15 receiving touchdowns will return now for the Missouri Tigers. So a huge boost for Eli Drinkwitz and MIZ as they look to make a playoff push heading into next season. Guys, we're going to jump into another quick break. On the other side, J.J. McCarthy said something before the national title game that just got me perplexed, got me confused. Why would you say it? What did he say? We'll talk about that and much more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to SEC Unfiltered Live.
Yo, you think Dallas' Power 4 gonna drop 30 tomorrow?
Boy, you tripping.
Did you see his mom made a post about going to the game?
What? Hold up. His mama gonna be there?
He's been averaging like 34 points a game when she's there.
At least 40 when she be on that Jumbotron.
He don't like to let his mama down.
Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Cash in on your sports fandom with Prize Picks.
SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is the simplest fantasy game on the market, focused around prop total entries. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. Prize Picks has no sharks, optimizers, or mass multi-entry. It's literally just you against the projection. They also allow mixed sport entries. So, for example, you can take the over on LeBron, parlay with the under on Mahomes. They've got college sports, pro sports, literally anything and everything you can think of. They have got it over at Prize Picks. They also have a slick, easy-to-use mobile app, both in the App Store and Google Play, and they're rated 4.8 stars in the App Store with rave reviews. So many fans and listeners of SEC Unfiltered have made tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks, and you should as well. So again, go download the Prize Picks app or head over to prizepicks.com, and when you do, use that promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. When your money's on the line, choose a trusted sports book that gives you tools to win, like MyBookie. At MyBookie, it doesn't matter if your team is up or down. You can easily cash out or bet the game live to come out on the winning side. Use MyBookie for daily odds boosts, same-game parlays, and take advantage of huge prize pool contests. Every single sack, fumble, and touchdown is another chance to hit payday. To get started, go to mybookie.ag, and on your first deposit, use promo code SECU to grab a deposit match up to $1,000. Try the MyBookie money bag as well to grab a potential Super Bowl frontrunner at long shot odds, plus 38,000 on the Eagles and Chiefs. You won't find odds like that anywhere else. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Finally, SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Roback. Guys, if you haven't heard of Roback before, it's time to check them out. It's safe to say I'd bet on these guys any day of the week because I absolutely love their gear. I couldn't be more pumped to work with Roback. It's simply some of the most comfortable gear that I own. From the performance polos to the hoodies and the joggers, it's some of the best fit and best feel around. Roback's performance hoodies are some of the best pieces of clothing I've ever worn. I can't emphasize how soft these things are with great stretch and breathability. They're simply some of the best hoodies out there. Odds are, guys, if you see me during football season, baseball season, basketball season, or just here on SEC Unfiltered Live, you'll more than likely see me in a Roback hoodie. Secondly, guys, Roback's performance polos, they're some of the most comfortable polos out there. They're moisture wicking with four-way stretch, making them perfect for a game day, and they have the perfect fit. With crisp collars that don't lose their shape, I could not recommend these polos more. In all honesty, guys, Roback's been gaining traction big time. I'm sure you've seen them. They've been working with some of college football's biggest stars, such as Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe and former LSU head coach Ed Orgeron. So go check them out now and use the promo code SECU on Roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with the promo code SECU. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Friday, January the 5th, 2024. Hey, do not forget, continue to leave us your questions, your comments, your voicemails, as well as our daily mailbag segment is upcoming in about 15 or 20 minutes or so. Really excited to dive into your questions and hear what you guys have to say going into the weekend. Hope you're all enjoying your Friday. You're getting ready for the weekend, got big weekend plans. And again, guys, cannot say thank you enough for the love and support that we felt all week long. And those who are rocking with us on SEC Unfiltered, guys, more on this later in the show, but it means the world. And I want to talk about that more as we go throughout the show, guys. Before we do, though, we got one more thing to discuss, one more thing to get into. These comments from Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy just blew my mind. Like, I don't know what J.J. McCarthy is trying to accomplish here. And what it sounds like is a dude that's been sitting on things for quite a while, right? It's like, you know more than what's being talked about, than what's being discussed, than what is known by the common person, by the media, by the community. And, you know, you feel like you have to sit on things and you have to sort of, you know, keep things a secret But at some point, there comes an opportunity, or maybe you have an opportunity where maybe you crack. Maybe, just maybe, you're like, you know what? I'm going to fire off and let people know exactly how I feel. And I think that's what J.J. McCarthy did here. Now, again, I know he's ticked off, right? Because here's the thing. Michigan, they are a damn good football team. And they're a great program with or without stealing signs. And when this first happened, guys, and this first came out, my first thought was, I mean, everybody in college football is doing this. Everybody, like, I come from the school of baseball, right, guys? Played baseball. I come from that school where sign stealing is as part of the game as apple pie and hot dogs, as sunflower seeds. You know what I mean? Like, everybody steals signs. You get on second base, what do? You're looking at the catcher, and I mean, if they're just throwing down basic signs, you're helping out your dude at the plate. Like, if you don't switch up your signs, that's on you. So when I first heard it, I'm like, okay, like, what's the big deal? Why are we freaking out? Then, of course, we got more of this Connor Stallions thing and the elaborate sign-stealing operation where they were taking video when Stallions was going to games. And, I mean, it was a really, really elaborate thing, right? J.J. McCarthy at the National Championship teleconference on Wednesday, okay, so this happened Wednesday, had this to say, quote, I also feel like it's so unfortunate because, you know, there's probably, I don't want to say a crazy number, but I'd say a good number, 80% of teams in college football that steal signs. It's just a thing about football. I don't think anybody would disagree, by the way. Side note, I don't think anybody would disagree that it happens. Like, it does. It happens. It happens in sports. People blur the line all the time. It happens. Then he goes on and says this, quote, you know, it's been around for years. We actually had to adapt because in 2020 or 2019, when Ohio State was stealing our signs, which is legal, we had to get up to the level that they were at, and we had to make it an even playing field. Like, why? Why? You're about to play the biggest game of your life, by far the biggest game of your season. And it's like reopening the wound. It's like ripping the scab off and letting the bleeding commence yet again. Like, dude, you have whistled through the graveyard to get here. Why even, like, you play with fire enough. You play with fire enough, you're going to get burned. What's the number one rule of Fight Club? Don't talk about Fight Club. Like, bro, just leave it alone. Like, I know what J.J. McCarthy, I know those guys are ticked. I know those guys are pissed. I can't imagine what those dudes have gone through on social media all throughout this season. Like, I get it. You want to say something so badly. Like, you're ready to burst you're bursting at the seams, right? Like, you're literally about to explode. You want to say something so badly, but you just can't. You just can't. You just can't. McCarthy also said this, quote, but, you know, I just feel like it sucks just because, like Mason said, we do work our butts off. We do watch so much film and look for those little tendencies, you know, spend like 10, 15 minutes on one clip alone, just looking at all the little details of the posture of the linebackers, the safeties off levels. The corner to the field is pressed, but the corners of the boundary is off a little. Stuff like that where it's okay. You can say it's all sign stealing, but, you know, there's a lot more that goes into play, and, you know, a lot of stuff that gets masked, a lot of work that gets masked just because of the outside perception of what sign stealing is about. Again, I get what J.J. McCarthy's saying. I know he wants to speak on it. I know so badly. J.J. McCarthy wants to clear the air and clear the name, but it just blows. Like, where's the PR guy? Where is he at? Like, JJ, just leave it alone, man. Let the outside people say what they want to say. Let them run with whatever crazy narratives they want. Because when you fuel that, when you feed into that, you're swinging down. And you never win a fight when you're swinging down. The only person that wins in a fight swinging down is the person down at the bottom. That's it. Like, there's no point, man. At least if that's how he views it, if that's the perception. Like, there's just no point. You got the national title game upcoming. And I mean, he should have just had Connor Stallions in the room with him. Like at that point, he's just basically saying, yeah, we 100% did it. And wasn't there a story basically saying that Jim Harbaugh had no idea? How would Jim Harbaugh not know now? So all of a sudden, stories are starting to conflict each other. And dude, I think this gives even more of a guarantee that Harbaugh is headed for the NFL. Like, there's no way Harbaugh wants to stick around for this madness. There's just no way. There's no way in my mind I see Harbaugh sticking around for this madness and dealing with this craziness. I just don't see it. I just do not see it. So, J.J. McCarthy and the Michigan Wolverines, I'm picking Michigan to win. But it's like Fight Club. What's the number one rule? Don't talk about Fight Club. But too late now, I suppose. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into another break. On the other side, we'll dive into your questions, your comments, your voicemails here on this Friday. I want to hear from you as we get the weekend kicked off in style. All that and more, guys, on this side of this break. You're tuned in to SEC Unfiltered Live.
Yo, you think Dallas' Power 4 gonna drop 30 tomorrow?
Why you tripping?
Did you see his mom made a post about going to the game?
What? Hold up. His mama gonna be there?
He's been averaging like 34 points a game when she's there.
At least 40 when she be on that Jumbotron.
He don't like to let his mama down.
Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Cash in on your sports fandom with Prize Picks.
SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is the simplest fantasy game on the market, focused around prop total entries. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. Prize Picks has no sharks, optimizers, or mass multi-entry. It's literally just you against the projection. They also allow mixed sport entries. So, for example, you can take the over on LeBron, parlay with the under on Mahomes. They've got college sports, pro sports, literally anything and everything you can think of. They have got it over at Prize Picks. They also have a slick, easy-to-use mobile app, both in the App Store and Google Play, and they're rated 4.8 stars in the App Store with rave reviews. So many fans and listeners of SEC Unfiltered have made tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks, and you should as well. So again, go download the Prize Picks app or head over to prizepicks.com, and when you do, use that promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. When your money's on the line, choose a trusted sports book that gives you tools to win, like MyBookie. At MyBookie, it doesn't matter if your team is up or down. You can easily cash out or bet the game live to come out on the winning side. Use MyBookie for daily odds boosts, same-game parlays, and take advantage of huge prize pool contests. Every single sack, fumble, and touchdown is another chance to hit payday. To get started, go to mybookie.ag, and on your first deposit, use promo code SECU to grab a deposit match up to $1,000. Try the MyBookie money bag as well to grab a potential Super Bowl frontrunner at long shot odds, plus 38,000 on the Eagles and Chiefs. You won't find odds like that anywhere else. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Finally, SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Roback. Guys, if you haven't heard of Roback before, it's time to check them out. It's safe to say I'd bet on these guys any day of the week because I absolutely love their gear. I couldn't be more pumped to work with Roback. It's simply some of the most comfortable gear that I own. From the performance polos to the hoodies and the joggers, it's some of the best fit and best feel around. Roback's performance hoodies are some of the best pieces of clothing I've ever worn. I can't emphasize how soft these things are with great stretch and breathability. They're simply some of the best hoodies out there. Odds are, guys, if you see me during football season, baseball season, basketball season, or just here on SEC Unfiltered Live, you'll more than likely see me in a Roback hoodie. Secondly, guys, Roback's performance polos, they're some of the most comfortable polos out there. They're moisture wicking with 4-way stretch, making them perfect for a game day, and they have the perfect fit. With crisp collars that don't lose their shape, I could not recommend these polos more. In all honesty, guys, Roback's been gaining traction big time. I'm sure you've seen them. They've been working with some of college football's biggest stars, such as Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe and former LSU head coach Ed Orgeron. So go check them out now and use the promo code SECU on Roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with the promo code SECU. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Friday, January the 5th, 2024. That being said, guys, our daily mailbag segment officially begins, taking your questions, your comments, and your voicemails here on this Friday, 843-790-3377. That is how you can be a part of the show. Big news, by the way, guys, in the world of college football. Two pieces, actually. Logan Diggs, the LSU running back, has officially entered the transfer portal. It feels like there may be more than meets the eye to that one, so we shall see. But either way, he is in the portal. And also, how about Maryland quarterback Talia Tungvailoa? I think that's how you say his name. But Maryland's quarterback has officially entered the portal as a grad transfer. So, I know, what's crazy, guys, is like this the transfer portal closes on X date. It just continues. I mean, the portal and I know that teams that had bowl games, I think they had like 5 days from end of season or whatever it is to enter the portal. I don't know. Either way, the portal madness, it just continues, man. It just continues, bottom line. So it's, that's a big one. I mean, that's a really, really big one that's in the portal now, and trouble up at Maryland for Mike Loxley. So, also Florida's had some guys, or had a guy this morning, a starting guard who started all 12 games into the portal. So, yeah, just a lot going on with the transfer portal. Madison Duncan says, when does the portal close? Madison, I wish I had a good answer for you. I thought it closed on the 3rd. I think teams that played in bowl games have 5 days from the time those games end. But if that's the case, I mean, why? I don't know. I don't know, Madison. I don't know. I don't have all the answers when it comes to that. Guys, like I mentioned, we're taking your questions, comments, voicemails. Let's go ahead and start the show off. We actually have a voicemail. We'll kick it off with that.
How you doing, Chris? This is Luke, first-time caller here. I was just honestly kind of surprised. I know the other day I saw the Puff Howard entered the transfer portal, and then we saw where he went to Florida. Kind of just, want to know about, the culture. It just doesn't seem like Beamer's creating the right culture. People hollered it all throughout the past few years, but I don't know with all this recent players hitting the transfer portal. Just want to know your thoughts about that and what you think.
Okay, Luke, I appreciate the call. First-time caller, call back in anytime, my friend. So we asked about the culture at South Carolina, and should Gamecock fans be worried about Shane Beamer's program? I mean, we talked about this 2 days ago. I don't know that South Carolina fans should necessarily be like hitting the panic button or anything like that. But, I think that here's the thing. If the losing persists and you continue to lose guys in the portal, and I know South Carolina's picked up guys, don't get me wrong, but it's back-to-back offseasons now. It feels like they've lost some pretty big pieces, some pretty substantial pieces. And the Gamecocks now, I think, are ranked outside of the top 10 in the transfer portal rankings. So, I mean, they've picked up some guys, but outside of Rocket Sanders, I don't think anybody that's not a Gamecock fan could name any of those dudes as big-time impact players. Maybe the kid from North Texas. I mean, give credit. They did get the wide receiver from Louisville yesterday, so that was a pretty solid pickup and certainly fills a need at the wide receiver position. But, I think the results, the question, the culture, Luke, to your point, it's just when the losing starts, people want to make sense of it. And, it's really easy to point to that, when you lose a guy like Juice Wells and Mario Anderson and, Stone Blanton and Pup Howard, and the portal just seems to take away from South Carolina just as much as it gives. So, only time will tell. Only time will tell. I mean, if South Carolina gets back to winning ways, I don't know that the culture will be much of a talking point, but, it's certainly something. The point of the video 2 days ago was I just wonder how long before South Carolina fans question it, because the culture was like a huge selling point for or has been a huge selling point for Gamecock fans and Beamer's programming. You just wonder if the losing persists and you see more guys hit the road. I know it's the day and age of college football. We're seeing it literally all over the country in college football, but it takes its toll. So, I just wonder if fans will start to question that and question the culture. Texter says, let's go to the text line. Robbie Davis, what's up, Chris? I think if we stay out of foul trouble, take high percentage shots, don't try to overdo it, we will pull off the victory tomorrow afternoon. Go Gamecocks, let Paris cook. Thank you so much, Robbie Davis. Appreciate the text. And with that being said, guys, we will get into your questions, comments on Facebook, YouTube. Again, y'all continue to flood the chat line. Justin says Stone Blanton to Mississippi State. So that is officially official. How about that? Stone Blanton going to Mississippi State, which is not a surprise. Really all that much, guys, I would say. Let's see. Yeah, so Stone Blanton is officially headed to Mississippi State. And, it was interesting that per the Gamecock folks, it was interesting that Stone Blanton, apparently one of the big reasons he left was he was homesick, but also his family reading comments on social media on their drive home from his games, less than thrilled about that. And they decided, you know what, screw it. We're going to go back home. We're going to go to Mississippi State. I thought that was interesting. I mean, I think what college football players and their families, and number one, get your parents off social media, right? Like college football players, your parents and your mama and your daddy and your cousin and your uncle shouldn't be on social media making, just for your own self, stay off of social media. Just during the season especially, stay off of social media. Much easier said than done, but you're better served just staying off of social media. That being said, we live in an NIL world where now the relationship is more transactional than it's ever been. And guys, here's what you can't do. You cannot ask fans to pay their hard-earned money to collectives to support their favorite team's rosters, right? To get student athletes to come to the school and play, and then turn around and also tell fans, by the way, do that, and you can't be critical of the product if it's not good. And you can't be critical. You can't have both, right? Fans are giving their hard-earned money to go to games, to tailgate, to travel, and now they're supplementing the roster. And, a kid wants to transfer because things are being said on social media, like people are being critical of his play. Dude, you're a paid pro at this point. Like, miss me with the whole he's a kid. No, you're a paid professional. Amateurism is dead in college athletics. It's dead. It is. So miss me with it, man. Miss me with hey, listen, you can go play D2. Nobody will care if you have a bad game. Nobody will. Nobody will pick you apart. Nobody will care. That's it. But if you want to be an SEC football player or a big-time football player, and you're going to get paid big-time money, you're going to have to face big-time criticism. That's it. And I'm not saying criticize for the sake of it. I'm not saying even tag a kid. I'm not saying call a kid out by name. That's not even what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you can't have both. You know, if it's, oh, they're just poor student athletes, like they're just kids, like we should, well, then take away the money. Why are we trusting kids with tons of money? Take away the money. We're not going to do that. So if you have a player like that in your roster and that's why they hit the portal, I mean, again, I would tell fans use best judgment on social media. But at the same time, like, you're a hard-paying customer. If the product sucks, you can just say it sucks. You can just say it sucks. Shouldn't have to apologize for saying it sucks. So, anyways, going through your comments. Del Rice. What's up, Del? Says, hotty toddy. What's going on, Del? Billy Cotton says, what other conference can you say had a down year? Go 5-2. Go 5-2 bowls game, beat Ohio State, LOL, but a down year. I mean, the SEC, though, did have a down year, Billy. The SEC did have a down year in comparison. If the SEC's not in the national title, it's a down year, to Chris Doering's point. Cody Larmer says, go Big Orange. What's going on, man? Appreciate you. Appreciate you tuning in. Ethan K says, bowl games have now become like the NIT in basketball. Not the top prize, what everyone wants, but it's a consolation prize. Well, you know, I think too, Ethan K, I think it depends on what school you're at. I think it depends on what program it is, Ethan K. You know, there are some places where winning a bowl game is still a really big deal, right? There are some places where winning a bowl game is still a really, really, really big deal. And there's some places where fans would be foolish to turn their nose up at winning a bowl game, right? Like, I mean, it just, you know, winning a bowl game is still a big deal. It is. Other places, you know, like an Ohio State, like a Georgia, like some others that have national championship or at least playoff aspirations, it's not such a big deal. But, like, here's the thing, too, man. Like, we move forward to this 12-team playoff, right? We move forward to this 12-team playoff, and I've heard everybody say that, you know, if you're not in the playoff, there's going to be so many teams that don't care, and they're not going to care about playing in a bowl game, and nobody on the team, everybody's going to opt out. There are some programs that have no business taking that mentality. For some programs, winning a bowl game is and should still be a big deal. There's some programs out there that haven't earned the right to turn their nose up at a bowl game. Pfft, we don't care about a bowl game. It's playoff or bust. Like, not for you, it's not. You haven't reached that level yet. You can't sit at that table yet. So, I still think winning bowl games are a big deal, personally. I think going to a bowl game, and like, you know, going to a nice bowl game is a big deal. It should be. I know not everyone will agree, but I think it should be. I think it should be. So, Austin Gregory, yeah, we just mentioned that a couple minutes ago. Logan Diggs in the portal. Austin, it sounds like, and I haven't talked to my LSU guys yet, but it does sound like that is something where there's more to that than meets the eye. We'll put it that way. Anyways, guys, in case you missed it, I mentioned this earlier in the show, but college baseball season just around the corner, which if you know anything about me, you know I'm super, super stoked for that. The first preseason top 25 poll has dropped. 8 SEC teams are ranked in the Perfect Game USA preseason top 25. You've got Arkansas at number 2, LSU number 3, Florida number 4. Vandy at 6, A&M at 7, Tennessee at 11, South Carolina at 13, and Auburn at 15. So there are 8 teams that are ranked. There are 3 teams ranked inside of the top 5. There are 5 teams ranked inside of the top 10. Dude, you know, here's the thing. People talk about how good the SEC is in football, and it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. It's fantastic. In basketball, it's come a long way. The depth of the league on the hardwood is as good as it's ever been. But in baseball, there is no other sport where the dominance of the SEC and the depth of the conference is shown more than on the diamond. It is insane. Like when you're talking about depth of a conference and, conference debate, is this conference better? There's no debate in college baseball. Like the SEC runs college baseball and people get SEC fatigue. And then you're adding Texas and Oklahoma. Then you're adding Texas and OU, two more great programs. Without a doubt, the SEC runs college baseball. It's not even up for discussion or debate. So, I mean, it's insane when you look at it. Wake Forest, by the way, preseason ranked number 1 by perfect game. TCU at 5. I'm just going through some interesting ones. Oregon State at 9. Virginia at 10. North Carolina is at 14. How about Iowa? Big Ten baseball. Iowa at 16. East Carolina at 17. Is this the year they finally make a run to Omaha? Let's see. Clemson, preseason ranked 21st. NC State is 19th. Duke 23rd. And Coastal Carolina at 25. There are 8 schools, by the way, from the Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina, that are ranked in the preseason top 25. So some really, really talented ball clubs. And again, I think you look at the depth of the conference, the overall depth of the league, and it's just fantastic, man. It's fantastic. So it's absolutely fantastic. Cody Larmer, any update on filling out the SECU team? Love to see Matt Be Great on SECU. Cody, did Matt Be Great send an email to secunfiltered@gmail.com? If he has not, please have him do so. I'm actually going through all of the applications this weekend. It is my goal to staff this thing out, the first wave, if you will, in the next couple weeks. So this weekend, I'm going through all the applications, reaching out to people, filling out the staff, if you will. I'm excited. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am to do that. And so, yeah, if Matt Be Great did not, at least just shoot us an email with an inquiry. Please have him do that. That's the best way to get to me and keep this thing organized. And guys, I'm really happy to say we've had about 40 people reach out that are interested and excited in joining the team, and really excited, man, to scale and to grow in 2024. As this my entrepreneurial journey continues, and being a business owner, and guys, of course, one of the biggest reasons for the SEC Unfiltered initiative and pushing this thing forward into 2024 is growing from the business side, from the entrepreneurial side. I've been a hustler for quite some time, going on 7 years. I've been in the hustler mindset. It is now time for me to scale, for me to grow and transition into the founder mindset, the CEO mindset. That doesn't mean not doing content anymore. I'm a content guy, guys. I love creating content, but I also am passionate about business, and I want to scale the business. And I cannot do that, will not do that as a solopreneur. So I'm really excited, guys, as we add new content contributors, as we add new pieces, as we add new talent. I mentioned this earlier in the week, but the goal and the expectation, at least in this first wave of hirings, is to have 6 to 8 football contributors, 3 to 4 basketball, 3 to 4 baseball, probably 3 to 4 gambling. Also, the plan is to have 5 or 6 other shows airing on the SEC Unfiltered network, to where this is just one show that we do. Like we have the noon to 2 slot. Then maybe on Mondays there's a 4 to 6 show. Maybe on Tuesdays there's a 9 to 11 show. Like there are other shows going on outside of just this one, right? Outside of just this one. Maybe this show gets a new name. Maybe this show gets a new name because there's so many shows going on. No longer is it SEC Unfiltered Live, because all of the shows will be SEC Unfiltered Live in some capacity, form, fashion, what have you. So again, I'm really excited for the future, guys. And again, I don't spend a lot of time on the show, in the daily mailbag, whatever, talking business, because we spend all of our time talking sports. But I do want to say thank you so much for the love and support. And listen, I understand things. There's been a huge transition, a huge shift, which I'm really excited about. And it's, I'm so pumped to be on this journey. And obviously, again, guys, I already went into the details of been meditating on the decision, how long I was, and things are going great thus far. But as I mentioned when we relaunched, guys, like I knew it was going to be something that took a lot of people by surprise. And there were going to be some people that, while the support has been overwhelmingly positive, there were going to be some people that were not big fans of it, right? And I'm happy to say across social media for the most part, we lost some following early on. I told you guys I'm willing to take a step or two back in the short term to take an unlimited amount of steps for the long term. And we saw that happen on X, on Facebook, on even TikTok. And I'm happy to say that we've gotten back to where we were previous, the following numbers, and we've exceeded that in many cases. But like I look at Instagram, for example, guys, we've lost 1,000 followers over the last 2 weeks. We've lost 1,000 followers on Instagram. And that's totally fine. I don't take it personal. I get it. And I get people that, maybe they're Gamecock fans. They don't want to see anything else than Gamecock content. They say, you know what, I'm unfollowing. But instead of harboring any sort of resentment or negative emotion or negative feeling, which I have none, I more so want to take the opportunity to yet again say thank you to those who have stuck around and who continue to support and continue to show love. And maybe you're uncertain about this journey or what it is or what we're doing, but you trust the vision and you trust me as a content creator, as an entrepreneur, and as a provider of value in your day-to-day life and throughout content and stuff like that, podcast, merch, whatever it may be. So I cannot say thank you enough. I cannot say thank you enough to those who continue to stick with us, show love, show support, be there every single step of the way, guys. I know things maybe right now still a little bit weird. We're just getting rolling. I was asked last night, I had a great conversation with the Agogi podcast guys, which will drop on Sunday. Great conversation about business and this entire move and the SEC Unfiltered initiative and really pulling back the curtains on some things in regards to the decision-making. But, talk to them guys. And it's, it's one of those things, the joys in the journey. I'm enjoying every step of the way. And we're going to continue to learn as we go. That's it. We're going to continue to learn as we go. And yeah, as as Justin says, it's going to be a basketball, football, and baseball show, and also just anything else that's happening in the world of the SEC or in the world of sports or what have you. It's going to be SEC focused, obviously, but we're not just going to be football. It's going to be football. It's going to be baseball. It's going to be basketball. So, and again, Gavin says he's going to miss the daily Gamecocks content. I mean, again, Gavin, there's still going to be a lot of Gamecocks content. There's still going to be a lot of it for sure, but we had to think bigger and broader and better. And that was the reason for the move. And again, I could just continue to go on and on and on. I highly encourage you guys to listen to the conversation, and we'll certainly air it. That drops on Sunday with the Agogi Pod guys. A lot of, again, pulling back the curtains on the decision and the move. And I want to take a moment to say thank you to those who are continuing to support. Thank you to those who are sticking it out. And to those that haven't, it's no hard feelings. I don't take it personally. Hey, when we drop a piece of Gamecock content, hope you enjoy that. But I got to do what's best for me and do what's best for the business and do what I want to do, which is create the content I want to make. And that's what we're doing. So, guys, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show in style, and we're heading the weekend, taking your questions, comments, and voicemails. All that and more. You're tuned in to SEC Unfiltered Live.
Yo, you think Dallas's Power 4 gonna drop 30 tomorrow?
Boy, you tripping.
Did you see his mom made a post about going to the game?
What? Hold up. His mama gonna be there?
He's been averaging 34 points a game when she's there.
At least 40 when she be on that Jumbotron.
He don't like to let his mama down.
Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Cash in on your sports fandom with Prize Picks.
SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is the simplest fantasy game on the market, focused around prop total entries. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. Prize Picks has no sharks, optimizers, or mass multi-entry. It's literally just you against the projection. They also allow mixed sport entry. So, for example, you can take the over on LeBron, parlay with the under on Mahomes. They've got college sports, pro sports, literally anything and everything you can think of. They have got it over at Prize Picks. They also have a slick, easy-to-use mobile app. both in the App Store and Google Play, and they're rated 4.8 stars in the App Store with rave reviews. So many fans and listeners of SEC Unfiltered have made tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks, and you should as well. So again, go download the Prize Picks app or head over to prizepicks.com, and when you do, use that promo code SECU to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. When your money's on the line, choose a trusted sports book that gives you tools to win, like MyBookie. At MyBookie, it doesn't matter if your team is up or down. You can easily cash out or bet the game live to come out on the winning side. Use MyBookie for daily odds boosts, same-game parlays, and take advantage of huge prize pool contests. Every single sack, fumble, and touchdown is another chance to hit payday. To get started, go to mybookie.ag, and on your first deposit, use promo code SECU to grab a deposit match up to $1,000. Try the MyBookie money bag as well to grab a potential Super Bowl frontrunner at long shot odds, plus 38,000 on the Eagles and Chiefs. You won't find odds like that anywhere else. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Finally, SEC Unfiltered Live is brought to you by our friends over at Roback. Guys, if you haven't heard of Roback before, it's time to check them out. It's safe to say I'd bet on these guys any day of the week because I absolutely love their gear. I couldn't be more pumped to work with Roback. It's simply some of the most comfortable gear that I own. From the performance polos to the hoodies and the joggers, it's some of the best fit and best feel around. Roback's performance hoodies are some of the best pieces of clothing I've ever worn. I can't emphasize how soft these things are with great stretch and breathability. They're simply some of the best hoodies out there. Odds are, guys, if you see me during football season, baseball season, basketball season, or just here on SEC Unfiltered Live, you'll more than likely see me in a Roback hoodie. Secondly, guys, Roback's performance polos, they're some of the most comfortable polos out there. They're moisture wicking with four-way stretch, making them perfect for a game day, and they have the perfect fit. With crisp collars that don't lose their shape, I could not recommend these polos more. In all honesty, guys, Roback's been gaining traction big time. I'm sure you've seen them. They've been working with some of college football's biggest stars, such as Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe and former LSU head coach Ed Orgeron. So go check them out now and use the promo code SECU on Roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with the promo code SECU. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Friday, January the 5th, 2024. Final 8 minutes or so of the show. Our good friend Gavin comments and says, I wasn't here for the first week of the new show, but will you still be doing post-game call-in shows, or is that still in flux? And Gavin, I'm thinking that you're talking obviously for the football season. The answer, Gavin, is no. The post-game call-in shows will no longer take place. I mean, just because, you think about the plan for the 2024 college football season, Gavin, we'll be going to a different SEC game, a different SEC venue every single weekend of the 2024 season. So week 1, for example, we've locked in. We're going to Florida, Miami down in Gainesville. Week 2, we'll go somewhere else. Week 3, week 4, week 5, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we will be busy with that. Really won't have time to sit down and just do a normal post-game call-in show, if you will. We'll probably just rock Monday through Friday. And again, that'll be the big content. But, we'll be talking all the games, obviously throughout the week, and we'll break down, we'll create content on Saturday, of course, react to games, et cetera. But no, there will not be a post-game call-in show like what you saw this past season. So anyways, guys, 843-790-3377 7. What there will be, though, what I think there will be. Y'all let me know what you think about this. Live stream for the national championship Monday night. I'm thinking about doing a live stream, just a live stream, kind of like I don't know if you'd call it a watch along, but really just we'll go live and watch the game together. And what we might do is have like not the video, but maybe like the play-by-play game feed up on the screen. So at least we have something. Obviously, we can't stream the game without getting it ripped down, if you will. But I don't know. I'm thinking maybe we live stream, just do a live stream during the national title game. You guys let me know how you feel about that. I think it'll be a cool way to hang out and talk about the game and enjoy the last game of college football, right? Before it all ends. So I'm still making up my mind on that. I'm pretty positive, though, we will do that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think that'd be a really fun way to close out the college football season and, just go out in style. So national title game, Justin, I've got the Michigan Wolverines. I have locked in my pick, the Michigan Wolverines. 30-28. I think it's going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a great back-and-forth game. I like watching on the +4.5. I like the over in the ball game, but I do think Michigan will get the win. So, let's see. So, Tua's little brother, Talia Tagovailoa, will seek a waiver for a 6th season of college football as he burned a redshirt in 2019, playing in 5 games for Alabama, twice playing a total of 2 snaps. One quarterback needy school tells Chris Hummer it's believed a waiver to be unlikely. So it does not. So he might not even be eligible. He may not even be eligible. Georgia State's quarterback is in the transfer portal. More and more people entering the portal today. Let's see. Who you got, Justin? He also says Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. Kayshawn says, I got South Carolina beating Mississippi State tomorrow. Be a huge win. I mean, I got it too. I think South Carolina will ride the momentum. I think South Carolina rides momentum in this game. Would be a massive win. Massive, massive win. Yep, there it is. Stone Blanton officially posted his graphic. My biggest question for Blanton is I wonder if they're going to let him play baseball. I wonder if baseball is in his future. I mean, this dude was ranked extremely high by Perfect Game. I wonder if maybe he goes back there and plays a little baseball. So, Travi, appreciate you tuning in, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, Travi. I appreciate it. Appreciate it greatly, man. Appreciate it greatly. You're the man. Thank you so much, Travi. Great stuff. Great stuff from our guy, Travis Rowell. Guys, like I mentioned, top of the show, be sure you hit that bell icon, hit the notification. I can't even spit it out. Friday jitters. I don't know. Be sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live and we drop new video content as well. Also, guys, subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to check us out there at SEC Unfiltered. And, of course, all across social media, guys, you can find us at SEC Unfiltered wherever you get your content. Like I said, guys, stay tuned for potentially Monday night, a live stream during the national championship. I think it'd be a fun way to watch the game, to take it all in. I'm not 100% on it, but it does sound like a lot of fun. would be a really good time, taking that all in and exploring that, if you will. So, yeah, really, really exciting stuff. Really exciting stuff. Let's see. Outside of that, guys, college basketball gets going. Enjoy the action on the hardwood. Enjoy the action on the hardwood. Really exciting that SEC play is getting underway, and just really pumped to figure out and find out, and people that separate themselves, you know, who separate themselves from pretender and contender, right? Who separates themselves going into the opening weekend. So really exciting stuff, guys. We'll be watching all the games, covering all the games. So going to be a lot of fun. Guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you all on Monday.